my theme was professional live streaming, and Andreja Primec and Igor Perko were helping me with this. Just for start, what is live streaming? Live streaming of various content is a relatively new digital activity, which is starting to be recognized, especially by the younger generations. It is an activity where the audience pays the streamer who does his work on an online streaming platform, plays video games, entertains, and communicates with them. For many, this idea is too simple and unrealistic. In the research, we focused on 3 well-known streaming platforms. This is Twitch, YouTube Gaming Live, and Facebook Live. Live streaming is a form of working from home. The success depends on the streamer's goals, audience support, and many other factors. Streaming is a new form of digital activity and is therefore not fully consolidated with the social interaction norms and standards. To better understand the wider socially responsible perspective, the relations between society towards streamers and streamers towards society should be illuminated. These include the economic effects of producing income, complying with the local tax regulations, personal data governance, and the protection of intellectual property rights on live streaming platforms. It is important to understand what the role of the streaming platform is, the personal engagement of the streamers, the role of institutions and society in the development of the new streaming frameworks in a digital world. We undertook the research by first describing and summarizing the already researched starting points from various professional articles and other literature. In researching the question of whether streaming can be gainful activity, we interviewed selected streamers. We inquired about their motives and reasons for streaming, why they do it, and what streaming represents to them. Specifically also about their average monthly earnings, and we compared these to the minimum monthly wage of the country in which they live for 2021. With the help of the review of the regulation of Slovenian tax legislation, we determined whether this regulates the field of streaming activities. We discussed in more details the existing ways of reporting income from streaming activities. The protection of intellectual property was examined by reviewing Slovenian and European legislation in this field. Additionally, we found some other sources in US laws, as these are included in the policies and guidelines for the protection of intellectual property of streaming platforms. With an insight and detailed analysis of the rules in this area, we were able to analyze how streaming platforms provide adequate protection and safeguarding of intellectual property. Using the interview method, we determined among the selected streamers how the streamers themselves can take care of their intellectual property on streaming platforms. We undertook the analysis of personal data protection by analyzing Slovenian legislation in this field in connection with European, as two are directly related. We also included a review of US legislation in some areas that include personal data protection, as it involves streaming platforms. We then analyzed the policies and guidelines of streaming platforms in the field of personal data protection and determined the extent to which they take care of the protection of users' personal data. Through an interview with selected streamers, we researched how they can protect their personal data on streaming platforms. We could establish that streaming-related incomes are not yet fully incorporated in the Slovenian taxation system. Digital work incomes are yet to be properly included. Regarding the protection of the streamer's intellectual rights and personal data, in some cases, streaming platforms are bound by law, but many proactively form their internal rule set due to various motives. Streamers need to thoroughly research obligations and regulations to understand and comply with them. The area of personal data protection and intellectual property rights is particularly problematic. With the rise of the internet came risks and disadvantages that were unknown until then. For example, exposing yourself and your identity to thousands of people that you normally would never meet. Viewers experience streaming as creating entertainment provided by the streamer in a variety of ways, and the action is set in the real time. Because it is happening live, the content cannot be rearranged, cut, or otherwise changed, which gives the whole activity a special charm. This gives the audience a sense of being part of the action, but on the other hand, streamer needs to be more careful what is shared with the audience, as the content cannot be edited. For example, they have to be careful how they can handle their personal data, what they can reveal about themselves, because there's no way back once the content is out and people notice it. Streamers should act responsible not only for their own benefit, but for the benefit of their audience. Streamer is the first that set an example on the stream. They basically guide the audience with the way they interact with them. In researching the live streaming characteristics, we combine the perspective of income generation, taxation rules, personal data protection, and intellectual rights protection. Because live streaming is digital activity, the results of our investigation pointed to the level of inclusiveness or lack of it of digital activities in society. Our main finding in the research is that live streaming enables survival. Slovenian streamers have multiple options for reporting income from streaming, although it is not yet so, it's not so recognized here. One of the options is reporting income activities as individuals without legal organizational form, which is suitable for beginners or streamers who do it in free time and don't expect reoccurring income. In this case, they announce the amount of income from abroad, based on which they receive an official statement of personal income tax. But when the activity becomes more profitable, it is most appropriate to register the activity as a sole trader or small micro company. Analysis of the rules for the protection of intellectual property rights on selected streaming platforms, as well as the analysis of the policies related to their protection of personal data, shows that platforms are aware of their importance. All analyzed platforms are guided by the policies that are committed to protecting and maintaining the protection of these rights to their best ability. We found that selected interviewees are more proactive in protecting personal data than in protecting intellectual property, because they believe it is impossible to fully protect their intellectual property. In our opinion, it is important for both streaming platforms and platforms users, as well as streamers and viewers, to comply with the rule set, terms, guides, laws. But what is more, we believe that it's not just abiding the rules that make them responsible. How we can best contribute to the responsible society is how we generally are, how we generally act and behave when we socialize, when no one is around, as well as in digital world. So that's all from my side. Thank you for your attention.